this is a pointless argument as it relates to the Chiefs-Colts game. I'm not going to come here and say that I guarantee the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this game. However, I think that they're better at forcing turnovers. They're going to have that chip on their shoulder. They're going to have something to prove. If this team can go from a 2-win team to an 11-win team, who am I to say that they're not going to win this game, win a playoff game? Seriously, stranger things have happened when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel good about it. I feel not great, but I feel good enough to give them the edge over the Colts.
Okay, so let's do last word on the game. Carl, what's your last word on this matchup?
My last word is that Andrew Luck has impressed me all season. He's cut down the interceptions ridiculously much. Andrew Luck is going to lead this team to a playoff win in the house that Peyton built, because now it is Andrew's house.
Okay, and Jake, your last word on this matchup.
My last word on this one is look for Kansas City's underrated defense to win, and watch out on special teams. Dexter Cluster's a better special teams guy than most give him credit for. That could be a big difference in this one.
Okay, and my last word. We can't guarantee you who's going to win. We can't say we know who's going to win, but we can guarantee you this will be an interesting matchup, and it's going to be close. It's going to be a great game, and if you're looking for a game to watch in spare time, this definitely has a lot of intrigue. So, with that, we're going to move on to the later game tomorrow. The NFC 3 versus 6 matchup is the New Orleans Saints. The 11-5, they're 11-5 against the 10-6 Eagles. So, Carl, get us started. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
All right, when I look at this matchup, the first thing I have to do is when talking about the Eagles, it's important to look not at their early games, because they are a very different team with Nick Foles at the helm. This team is not the same team that was quarterbacked by Michael Vick. This is really a new and improved team with Nick Foles, who was arguably the best NFC quarterback in the second half of the season.
Yeah, he has been astronomically good, and you're right. When you're looking at this matchup, if you're the first half team, you're going to think, wow, this team is not very good. But even the loss against Kansas City, that's with Michael Vick. The loss against Denver, that's with Michael Vick. Then Nick Foles steps in, and only Minnesota could tarnish his record at the helm.
You're welcome, world. You're welcome. The one thing is, and when I look at that Minnesota game, I look at a team that was looking really past Minnesota to 2 better games later. I think Philadelphia made the mistake of underestimating an opponent there.
Yeah,
I would have underestimated them too. I promise you, I did not expect Minnesota to win with Matt Asiata as their starting running back. So with the Eagles, they're coming off of, I think, a very impressive win over Dallas. It may have not been Dallas at full strength, but it was a win over Dallas. The biggest stat I look for, and this is a full season stat, and this is something that the Eagles are consistent at, is they are first in rushing yards in the entire NFL. They are first in that category. That is very impressive. And add that with the ninth rated passing attack, but New Orleans is just 19th in opponent rushing yards. I think that LaShawn McCoy is going to have a career day. Truly. I think he's going to run all over this defense.
Okay.
So in this matchup, especially with the team New Orleans, who they've lost 3 of their last 5. They beat Carolina in week 14, but then came back and lost in week 16. I haven't been impressed with the Saints lately. I truly think that the Eagles are going to pull this one out.
Well, here's something. The Saints are second overall in opponent passing yards, allowing under 200 yards of opponent passing yards. You look at Philadelphia, they're 9th. So a lot of their offense comes from passing the ball. I understand they are obviously a great running team led by Shady McCoy, who I agree is going to have a field day. I don't think the Saints have enough to stop him, but if they take out the passing game, that puts a lot of pressure on McCoy. That puts a lot of pressure on this Philadelphia offense. And you look at Philadelphia defensively, they are 32nd in opposing passing yards going up against the second-ranked passing yard team. This is going to be high scoring. I don't think there's any way around that. There will be touchdowns. There will be a lot of touchdowns. And it will be a close game. And it really probably will come down to who has the ball last and who makes the most stops. Because these teams, they have the matchups they want. But I'm going to go with New Orleans. I'm going to go with New Orleans in Philadelphia. Right. Sorry, Blake. Sorry, Philadelphia. I'm going with New Orleans.
All right, Noah, I would like to really quickly combat. Let me combat one point. You're saying the point about their passing defense. Well, I'm just going to bring up another club who had a really good passing attack. Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions were third in passing this year, yet they still lost 34-20 against Philadelphia. Philadelphia stepped up the defense needs to.
Matt Stafford kind of fell apart. He had his Romo moments toward the end of the season. Here's my pick for this game. I don't like going against my gut. It does feel right.
It's never a good thing to go against your gut.
But
Jake, your gut is so important to you.
I know, which is why I don't like making this pick. But only one thing could be more important, only two things more important than the gut feeling. Momentum and motivation. And if you look at the momentum for the Philadelphia Eagles coming into the playoffs, we saw it with the Steelers in 05 and 08. We saw it with the Giants in 07. We saw it with the Packers in 2010. The Eagles are coming in hot. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. And the Saints have sort of limped into January. And they've been terrible on the road. I like Sean Payton, Breeze, but now I find out that Pierre Thomas isn't even going to be playing due to injury. I'm worried. And their only victories away from the Superdome, they beat Tampa Bay by 2, they beat Chicago by 8, and they beat Atlanta by 4. And those are their only road victories all season. This is the same Drew Brees and Saints team that lost to the Seahawks 7-9. I'm going to say 21-16 Philadelphia wins. I think this is not going to be a high-scoring game. I think these are two very underrated defenses. I think Rob Ryan came to New Orleans and turned around this defense. They turned around the defense and made it a top 5 crew. I think that was something that would be laughable before. I think there's going to be a lot of good blitzing. But I like Chip Kelly's Predator defense. I like what Kelly has done in Philadelphia. I think that the Eagles' revolution might just continue. The best teams can win on the road. The Saints have failed to do that time and time again. I don't want to pick the Eagles, but I know it's the right thing to do here, so Philadelphia wins, in my opinion.
Okay, another thing. Last time the Eagles were in the playoffs, 2010, wild card against the Packers, and they lost that game against a team led mostly by passes, but Aaron Rodgers only threw for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I know these are two different teams, but I think even if Drew Brees is contained, I think they can still win the game. And if you're saying it's going to be defensive, you won't need much. You won't need.
Oh, I'm not saying this is defensive.
I'm talking about what Jake said, but if you say it's going to be more defensive, 2 underrated defenses, you said 21-16, correct?
Right. 21-16.
So you're going with the exact same score. Personally, I think the Saints have enough offense to easily put up 3 touchdowns. So,
all right, but this is such a difference. This team compared to this Eagles team, I'm sorry, but we're talking, when we talk about this Eagles team, a different coach, very few of the same players.
Oh, I agree.
This is an Eagles team that is tied for second in the league in turnover margin. That is 12. They're at a 12 differential. New Orleans, right on the 0 mark. This is an Eagles team that can win the turnover battle that has been shown time and time again. Turnovers are what wins football games. And Nick Foles does not throw turnovers, and LaShawn McCoy does not throw fumbles. But most importantly, this defense knows how to take away a ball. 19 picks this year. I think they're going to take at least... Drew Brees is going to throw at least 1 pick.
Yeah.
They're going to win the turnover battle, and in the end, they're going to win the game.
Who's going to match up with Jimmy Graham? Who on that team has enough to come close to matching up with Jimmy Graham?
No, you're right. That's a troubling secondary. But let me tell you, you said that the Breeze was a better offense, and there's no way this could be a defensive matchup. That's what I would have thought a while back. But if you look at the games they played on the road, 13 points, 16 points, 7 points. If you want to look for the last time they scored 20 points on the road, you have to go back to week 9 in the Meadowlands against the Jets, and they lost that game by 6. They've only gone to the road and won a game once this year and scored over 20 points. And that was against the Bears in week 5. So I wouldn't be so sure about this offense, and I think Breeze has been prone to mistakes. And I think the Super Bowl win, he got off for that, but I think it's going to start to show now. The Eagles' secondary is lacking, but I think that the front seven is going to be able to get enough pressure on them, again, with that Predator defense. It's going to give the Eagles the edge. And even if Breeze doesn't have a good game, by the way, they're done. Darren Sproles is not going to step up here unless he pulls a James Stark. Now, as a Packer fan, I should maybe know better. But Darren Sproles has had a bad season. At least, Starks was a rookie and he was coming out of nowhere. This is a completely different story. I just don't think New Orleans has what it takes to get it done on the road. The signs are there, and I think we have a job to see those signs. I mean, if you beat Tampa Bay 16-14 in Tampa Bay, they lost to St. Louis in St. Louis 27. They put up 16 points in St. Louis, 13 in Carolina, 7 in Seattle.
Okay.
That's not an offensive performance. That's not a good offensive show.
Is Philadelphia has played in the snow a lot, in the cold. Breeze, when the temperature drops below 32 degrees, his completion percentage drops significantly, and he is 2-3 in the 5 games he's played below 32 degrees with 6 picks.
Okay.
Again, in the cold weather, Breeze is not a good player.
I address the picks, pick situation.
I don't know how much Mother Nature cares about football, and I don't know how much of an effect she has on it.
Oh, nature, weather affects football games, if like it or not.
If you're talking Eagles, Lions, absolutely. Sorry, not do they affect football games? How they affect individual football players?
Okay, I think the weather will help the Eagles. The cold weather will hurt the Saints.
It will not hurt the Eagles. I'll give you that. It will not hurt the Eagles.
Okay, well, can we talk about the picks thing? Look, Philadelphia, okay, they have a lot of picks, but look at some of the quarterbacks they've gone up against. They got Eli Manning twice. That doesn't hurt when it comes to picks. They got Oakland and Tampa Bay, who were in a flux. Washington at the beginning of the season. They had Detroit and Matthew Stafford, who,
they had Tony Romo twice.
They had Minnesota. That doesn't hurt. They had Jay Cutler in Week 16. That helps when it comes to picks.
I would like to note, though, on the Minnesota stat, Matt Castle did not throw pick in this game. So
Denver.
When you're going to include a team, make sure they actually threw one.
Okay. There are 3 teams at the beginning of the year, and you can say they have a new quarterback, but that doesn't affect defense. I mean, it can affect morale of defense, but San Diego, KC, and Denver, they got torched. And KC isn't a great quarterback. That's a lot of running game. San Diego, Denver, both have good quarterbacks. 33-30, they kept it in, but 33 points on a defense is not what you want. 52 points is certainly not what you want. Those starting 2 quarterbacks and your free safety, strong safety, and I do not feel confidence. I do not feel confidence in Patrick Chung. I do not feel confidence in Nate Allen. I do not feel confidence in Fletcher Williams. I don't like this secondary, and for that reason, I take New Orleans.
I want to note something. Okay.
I want to touch back on the point that you made earlier. You said that Breeze doesn't have to have a great game.
If you're saying it's going to be a defensive matchup, he have a great game. If it's a defensive matchup, I think that if he has an average game, which is 250 yards, maybe a little less, and 2 touchdowns.
No. That's average for Drew Brees, but that's good for a quarterback. That would still be Drew Brees showing up somewhat. If Brees has a bad day, they can't win this game. You want Darren Sproles to have a big day?
What are we talking about bad? What are we saying bad?
What is the bad?
What is bad? What is your definition?
What is bad? It depends on the for bad would probably have to be